You are listening to Single Smart Female. This is Jen, explaining the possibilities in your love life and examining your mantourage dating experiences. I am here to help you do life and love on your terms by tipping the scales of love permanently in your favor. So don't forget to text this episode to all of your single smart girlfriends, and let's get started. Hey there, single smart female. It's your romantic fairy godmama. And today we have a romantic fairy godmama quickie for your ears. And today's quickie is, do you really want an emotionally available man? Now, here's the deal. This is a little bit of a complicated topic, but I'm going to try to distill it down to some important pieces that I want you to consider. So ultimately, yes, we always want an emotionally available man. But the real question is, to what degree and what does that actually look like? Because a lot of what we think is emotionally available can very quickly turn into emotionally manipulative and emotionally abusive. And these are things that we have to consider. So I have a lot of very alpha females come to me and say that I'm only really turned on by alpha men. And I find no problem with that if they understand how to navigate the world of alpha men and understand how to give men a place where they can become emotionally responsive. Because a lot of times what will happen is women don't learn how to do that. And then all of a sudden she has a man that never talks to her, is never there for her emotionally, and all kinds of stuff. And then she's pissed and saying that I want somebody who's emotionally available. Then we have men who are being trained to be emotionally overly available these days. And that has a host of its own problems that we're not acknowledging. And the truth is, a lot of us are, when they're emotionally overly available, I don't have a better phrase for it, but our wetness below the belt dries up very, very quickly. Now, why? Well, it's because it's too much. What we're not recognizing is that this incessant need we have at this point to talk about all kinds of feelings all the time is really overblown. Like, we need to, as a society, men and women, take more responsibility for our own feelings instead of putting it elsewhere and making it everybody else's responsibility. And there's something in between. You can definitely have an alpha man, a take charge man, which I love, I really, really like, who is emotionally available enough, like my husband, to really get what you need from a relationship. A relationship does not have to be somewhere you have to just be able to say whatever you need to say all the time. Now, I know that sounds a little counterintuitive, so hear me out for a second. The thing is that I think as women, we've become exhausting about talking about our feelings, and we'll definitely talk about that in depth in another episode. But we have, and I used to do this a lot, we have gotten to the point that, our feelings matter so much that we have to keep talking, and we want somebody to be a receptive audience. But on the same page, if we're that kind of person and then we have somebody else, a male in our life that's that kind of person too, at some point we exhaust each other, and instead of actually having conversations that light us up. And that's the piece that I want you to understand. It is great to be able to emotionally connect to somebody and to have them there for you in the tough times and be able to talk to you. But if you can't have fun with that person, then this relationship long term doesn't really stand a chance. Why? Because there's nothing good that it's based on, meaning there's nothing fun and connecting and soul uplifting. We cannot live in a world of just the drudgery of feelings all the time. You need the ability to have a wonderful time and to connect on another level. And if you do have a man that will do that with you, basically the two of you are enabling each other. Not only that, a lot of times when you have a man that'll do that, at some point it'll start to become emotionally manipulative, either his part or your part, where let's just use him as an example, when he wants to have a discussion about everything and like how what you're doing makes him feel this and what, and then it starts to become controlling from an emotional standpoint. And I've seen that happen a lot as well. But we're so caught up. I had a client one time, absolutely wonderful woman. We're so caught up in this need to have, quote unquote, an emotionally available man that she came to me and she had this guy who was exhausting. Like, she came to me and she said, Jen, I signed up to work with you on the same page. I just met this man and I'm pretty sure we're going to go the distance. This is going to be my man. And then she started talking to me about him. He was emotionally available, but it had become emotionally available about him only. And he was exhausting, absolutely exhausting. And this doesn't happen to me often, but I was exhausted from listening to her tell me about everything he was doing on this so-called, and I'm doing my air quotes right now, emotional level. So that's something to consider. Now, if you're thinking about, well, but Jen, I've had that guy that I can't talk to and stuff like that. Well, that really has to do with how you set things up. With my current husband, he was that guy at the beginning too. No doubt. He did 3 emotions: happy, hungry, and angry. And he was not apologetic for it whatsoever. But because I was Mantourage dating, because I wasn't forcing these talks on him where we had to, discuss all the things, and I just let him become more and more curious about my emotional state, he started opening up more. And it became a trust between the two of us that we could disclose, and we weren't going to emotionally vomit on each other all the time, but we could share and we can be there for each other. And you know what? We have the most incredible, it didn't actually take that long. It maybe took a few months, and I was having a great time, and we had a great time together too, but I was having a great time Mantourage dating, and it only took a few months for him to keep opening up. And now he is the one who will initiate the conversations. And so what I'm telling you is, if you come into a relationship, not come into a relationship, but if you meet a man who is emotionally overly available and he just wants to talk about everything at the beginning, tell him to slow his roll for a minute. The two of you need to have some time to actually get to know the fun side of each other, okay? Because otherwise, remember, what you're doing in the dating phase is setting the precedent for everything in the relationship phase. And if you only want a relationship where you can talk all the time and not really actively have fun together, well, then that's one thing. But most of you, I know, really need a space where you can get out of your head and feel all kinds of wonderful things, not just the drudgery of what we consider human existence, because human existence doesn't have to be that way, especially when you decide to include a partner in your life. And that's the process of Mantourage dating and becoming an adored woman. And I want you to consider those pieces and consider that ultimately we do not have to connect completely on that talking level. Yes, you definitely should have it, but it shouldn't be your only point of connection. And if you want to become an adored woman, you definitely need to factor in the fun part. Hey, Lover Girl. Thanks for joining me today and texting this episode to all of your single smart girlfriends. If you have a question that you'd like to submit for on-air consideration, or want to learn more about working with me, then meet me over at singlesmartfemale.com. See you there.